Good day, everyone. So, this is another recorded discussion in our subject campus journalism. So, for today's discussion, we will talk about the stairway to news, writing techniques, and principles. So, let's begin in discussing the sources of news. So, one should bear in mind that facts are the main foundations of news articles. A writer or a journalist must have a high sense of smelling ability to newsworthy issues. So, this special ability is dubbed as a nose for news in journalism parlance. So, to be able to do so, a journalist must know the avenues where he can gather data for his news articles. So, number one is we have what we call the beat. So this is the stable assignment of the reporter. So for instance, in a school setting, the chief editor or the advisor is identifying assignments for the writers. So Jane, a news writer, is assigned to gather news from the student body. So Jane's bit is the student council only, thus what she concentrates on is only issues about the student body. Being confined to one only assignment, the reporter achieves a sense of time management at the chance to get through all the perspectives of the news. So this will also diminish the hodgepodge ideas of the writer, especially a student journalist. Second one is written and printed documents. So a good journalist is a resourceful in looking for newsworthy issues. So one of his or her sets of sources include the public documents, either electronically or physically posted. So for example, if he or she is gathering data for the newly imposed rules on wearing the prescribed uniform, she may look into the minutes of the meeting or the resolution where such rules are inscribed. Next is we have the what we call the observation. So this may be done through a keen empirical observation. It exists as a writer bears witness using the physical senses to what is happening in the local communities. So, in the context of a school paper, a writer must be wary of the places and goings on in the campus. So, this may be activities that are not visible on the eyes of the many. Next is tips from co-writers, teachers, and students. And another one is Gantt chart or of schedule or calendar of activities. Next is interviewing key informants. So this is the gathering of information on person-to-person basis. So straight from the experts or any resource person as credible source. So more sources of news is the internet has increased the available number of news sources. So audiences can go to a general news sites covering broad topic areas such as, for example, blogs. They represent another source of news free from traditional economic, corporate, political, or advertising considerations. So there are blogs devoted to all sorts of topics. So blogs offer alternative points of view to traditional media. Blogs provide an additional outlet for reporters to explain why they reported a story in the way they did. Next is a citizen journalism. So in citizen journalism, ordinary citizens become amateur reporters. So this trend is facilitated by digital and cell phone video cameras and high-speed internet access. So the traditional news media encourage citizen journalism, and many media outlets ask audience members to submit photos and video clips. So citizen journalism is popular with the mainstream news media in part because it is free content, but it also empowers the audience. Next is we have the hyperlocal news. So this is a news referring to a news coverage for a very small community. So it can be a single zip code or interest group in a defined geographic area. So most hyperlocal news appears on websites, and publishers of hyperlocal news hope that the extremely local focus and the coverage of the topics ignored by the traditional media will draw in people who generally do not consume news. Twitter and Facebook have examples of hyperlocal news, and visitors can find news of interest to them and their close circle of friends. Next is rules of thumb in news gathering. So a writer must not only have the nose for news but also consider the guidelines in gathering data. So according to Ramirez, has published some of these rules of thumb in data gathering for news writing. So number one is see for yourself. So nothing is more vivid when one sees the event right before his own eyes. So becoming the first-hand witness other than gathering through hearsay keeps the spontaneity of ideas of the writer. Next is find a person who knows. So the writer should go directly to the person who is considered as the key participant of the issue. So such a person may give the writer a sense of confidence that what she will write is taken from the statements and ideas of the persons rather than surmising the ideas, effects, and impacts of an issue. So further, this act champions objectivity, thus diminishing bias. Next is we have compare all versions. So a writer must not rely solely on one version. So as discussed in the previous chapter, one should set myriads of perspectives so as to limit the holes of biases. So moreover, feel free to question inconsistencies and ensure the veracity of each statement or information. The fourth one is be tactful and courteous. So a writer is respectful of time. He should focus only on the data needed. He should avoid spending the time of the interviewee on futile topics. So courtesy is likewise seen in acts and words of the writer who gathers data. More often than not, saying thank you is a good gesture to pay the interview the bother fee incurred. Next is make and keep friends. So dependable informants are most valued assets, especially when a writer is assigned in a single bit throughout the academic year. So when needed, give them favorable mention in your stories. Never break their trust in the name of having a good scoop of the news. Last is we have the print it. So this rule of thumb reminds a writer or a journalist that unpublished news is wasted. So the fact that one has gathered data, the news is now considered a newsworthy item. So let's now discuss on how to handle interview in news gathering. So the interview is the bedrock of information gathering in news writing. So it is defined as the process of dyadic relational communication with a predetermined and serious purpose designed to interchange behavior involving the asking and answering of questions. So, as it sounds brain cracking, simply put, the interview is a purpose driven. So its main aim is to exchange ideas through questions and answer style. The interviewer is the person who asks questions while the interviewee is the person who gives the answers. So let us now study the key points in such definition to bullseye the meaning. Number one is dyadic. So denotes that the interview is a person-to-person interaction between two parties. Next is we have the relational. So strongly suggests an interpersonal connection between the interview parties. Next is we have the predetermined and serious purpose. It means that at least one of the two parties comes to the interview with a goal and has planned the interview to focus on a specific subject matter. Next is interchanging behavior. So this connotes sharing of expectations, roles, feelings, and information. Next is asking and answering questions. So this is taken as a single process. This is a crucial to interviewing process. Questions serve as tools to obtain information. So these are now the stages in interview. So these are some steps in conducting an interview using the formula known as GOSS or GOSS. This is developed by Rudy Gilliland. So number one is know your goal or purpose. So G stands for goal. And then present obstacle encountered. Offer solutions to these obstacles and start writing the interview story. So in steps in conducting the interview, number one is you have to identify or to define the purpose. Next is conduct a background research of the topic you're assigned to. And set an interview appointment. Make preliminary planning by listing down possible questions. So the 5 W's and 1 H. So be sure to ask a specific who, another who, and one more who, and final who. So for instance, you're interviewing the principal of your school regarding the Brigada Eskwela conducted last May. You may ask many who questions as you wish, like who was the proponent of the program, who were the benefactors, who were the participants, who else attended the activity, and who may be benefited by the program. So this technique should be practiced by a good data gatherer for a news article so that she may be accumulate basketfuls of data in such a way she may be diminish subjectivity. Subsequently, she presents many perspectives as she can. And then I am so sorry I did not include the remaining steps in conducting the interview, but please take note of this. So the fifth one, so after you make the preliminary planning, the next step would be meet the interview and that get down to business. So ask the first question and then establish early rapport, that is from formal to less formal. So tackle the more sensitive topic with respect and tactfulness and express some recovery statements. And after that, you have to leave a thank you note to the interviewee. So let us now talk about the structure of news. So since this discussion is intended for novice writers and those who are skeptical yet whether or not to join the publication, the structure of news discussed below is the basic news structure. So for advanced reporting, there are more types of news structure. So newspaper articles are written using the inverted triangle format. So most journalism experts agree to use triangle, not pyramid. So the inverted pyramid format is three-dimensional, that is referring to special cases of developmental communication and interpretive journalism or investigative reportage. So using the inverted triangle structure, a writer bears in mind that the most important information is at the top or the beginning of the article, and the least important is at the bottom or the end of the article. So with this format, the story of the news article will have the ability to undergo cut-off tests or removing last sections of a story to quickly shorten the story without distorting its gist. So the reasons for the inverted triangle structure. So the inverted triangle is used in news writing because it makes reading easier and faster. So it also enables the hurried reader to get all the important facts in a very short period of time. Say as he reads the first 3 paragraphs, he knows already the gist of the news. So it likewise satisfies the curiosity in a logical way as it makes page makeup easier. So finally, it makes the work of the editor easily. So let us try to compare the two stories. So we have here the Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water versus Jack suffered a skull fracture and Jill is in a serious condition after the pair tumbles down a hill during their ritual water carrying chores yesterday. So the second version tells a story packed with specific details. If you try to investigate, the second version gives ideas of who are involved in what event, including the how and why it happened, plus the where such incident happened, and not to forget the when it occurred. If you could spot the details here, then you are getting the gist of the structure of the news, which follows a logical presentation of details. So remember that the structure of the news is based on a logical importance. So that's all for today's discussion. So I hope you learned something about our lesson for today about the Stairway to News Writing or Techniques and Principles. So for your performance activity on the comment section below, this is consists of 40 points. Answer the following questions by following the given format. Your name, your section or cluster, your year, and your answer. So the deadline would be on September 24, 2023, 8 p.m. only. So number one is identify various sources of news as and in your own explanation. I mean, use your own words to explain each. I am so sorry. And then determine potential sources of the school news. So for your face-to-face activity, bring to class at least 3 back issues of your school paper. In the absence of one, a daily newspaper may do. Clip 5 news articles and survey the articles according to the matrix below. So you will use this matrix, the headline, writer, sources of news, and names of persons interviewed. Next is secure a copy of your school calendar. Put 5 activities in your school calendar and fill out the matrix below. The activity, the date, the sources of news, and key person to be interviewed. Next is clip a news item which has several inaccurate as regards acknowledging the source of data. Highlight such parts in red ink and present your output in the class. So again, the face-to-face activity, all the face-to-face activities will be posted and will be included in your portfolio. So when I say, for example, in here, present your output in class, you don't have to present it, just put it in your portfolio. And when I announce the date or the schedule of our face-to-face activity, that is when you will submit your portfolio containing all the face-to-face activities. So that's all for today's discussion. If you have any questions, clarifications, or concerns, you can chat it in our official group chat. Thank you very much and see you in our next discussion.